So this video I hate to have to make. So I've decided to sell the car. Not an easy decision. I am already regretting it because I know it's going to be hard to find another one like this car because they're pretty rare finding a two-door. But I came to the decision mainly because, one, I've picked up two other cars. Both are four-door cars, one being a suicide rear door car, which I think are going to be better for my family and I. With having two little kids, having the four doors, I think is going to make it a lot easier. That being said, the other main reason that I came to the conclusion is I'm not still sure I'm 100% happy with the Crown Vic front end. After making the control arms, narrowing those up, and doing all the mods that it took to make those control arms work, I'm still not sure that I'm 100% happy with it. And so that leaves me with a big issue. What do I do next? And as you see, I moved the wheels in. I did get them in a little bit further, and that helps. But issues that I still need to come across or would have to come up with an answer for are shock mounts. Should be fairly easy, but at full turn, there's a little bit of room to try to make one work without causing some binding. I did have one welded on, and I didn't like the angle of it. There was extra pressure on the bushings as the suspension cycled. And so it would have worked, but it would have worn out parts prematurely. And I decided I wasn't going to be happy with that. Even though the shocks were cheap, why build something with a design that may not work long term? So I cut that back off. I posted the car for sale, and I have a guy on his way. He's making about a 6-7 hour drive from west of St. Louis, and he's now about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes out. And so he's going to be buying, he's bringing 2 trucks and 2 trailers, one for this car and one for the donor car. I don't even know if I ever put a video up of the donor car that I bought. It's pretty rough, but I bought it for things like the trim and some of the glass pieces. On these cars, the doors are specific to the 2 doors. So a sedan door will not fit on one of these cars. So I bought the donor car for parts and out of Michigan, and like I said, it's pretty rough. So, but they're going to take that as well. And it was a hard decision to make. Yesterday my son came out, and I told him that I was going to be selling the car, and he started crying. He's called this car the Blue Zoom. So man, that killed me to see him upset about getting rid of this car, and it really hurt to sell it. And I want to be fully transparent here. The reason is not because of the money. I'm not selling it because I need the money and need to get rid of it. It's more or less I've came to the conclusion that it doesn't make sense for me to go forward. Not because I've butchered it up or hacked it up so bad that it can't be salvageable. I have another car out back with a perfectly good frame underneath it. I could start over. Realistically, to do the rear suspension stuff I did on this one, I still have the files. I could cut new files for the 4-link mounts. I could redo the entire rear suspension in less than a day, and then I would just start over with the front, and then I could just swap that frame under this car. I thought about that. That was an idea, because I don't know with what I did on the front end with the frame rails that I made and welded in. It would be kind of a nightmare to cut out some of the stuff that I did in order to start over. I think it would be easier to go back to the other frame and modify that one and then put that underneath this car since they're the same before I would modify this one further. That being said, I'm looking at this, even though I said I'm not selling it because of the money, that I need the money. I am selling it mainly because I'm looking at this as a financial thing. And I'll break that down. And I'm not saying this, and like I said, and I know the gentleman that's buying it is probably going to watch this, and I'm not saying it because I think this is a bad deal for him. It's just where I'm at and with the car and what I want for it long term with in my life situation with the younger kids, this car doesn't make sense for me currently. I love the car. I do not want to get rid of it. If I hit the lottery last night, I would absolutely keep this car and build it fully. I'd start over and have everything done on this car. But if I break it down, Where I'm at is the amount of money that I have in this car is not insufficient or insignificant. I have a chunk of money in this car, and with me not being 100% sure on if I'm happy with the front end, my only option if I decide that I don't like this front end is to then replace it. So if I go a Mustang 2 route, start over like that, I'm looking at a couple $1,000, probably minimum 2,000, 2,500 bucks minimum. If you go with a cheaper kit, I have the files, I can cut the cross member out. If I go with something a little bit higher end, like a Scott's Hot Rod front end, they quoted me like $4,500 for a front end. Once again, not afraid to do it, but that just adds into the total that I'm into for this car. I think the car is worth it. I would like to do that. But when I then go and I go further, and this car is a beautiful car. But whoever did this car prior basically skimped out on doing it correctly, in my opinion. They've made the outside look great, but there is some underlying rust underneath the rockers and around the wheel tubs and even in the trunk area. It's not that bad. There's nothing that is, it's not great, but it's nothing that is keeping the car from driving. It's nothing that is structurally an issue. It is more, I say that, by structurally as in like the car's not falling apart. There's no holes in the floors. There's nothing like that crazy. There is a little bit of space. There are some gaps in the panels in the trunk area, but very minor for being the age of the car. But when I break it all down and realize that one day, whether it be next year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever my plan was to keep this car, eventually I'm going to have to go through and fix that rust. And in doing so, I'm going to have to sand down this paint. I'm not a body guy. I don't like body work. And so after I sand down this beautiful paint and fix all the rust and try to do that myself, I then am going to have it painted. I don't paint. I've got friends that do. I could probably sub out some work or make a deal with them and get it repainted. But that's just an additional cost. So let's say if we're going generous, we'll say maybe $5,000 in materials and paying somebody, maybe. Realistically, it could every bit of be 10 plus grand to have it repainted. And then the final straw kind of is the chrome. Now, I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to like these cars. Actually, this thing stresses me out how nice the paint was. There has been some little scratches and things that have happened over the 2 years that this car has been torn apart. And every time I see something, it kills me that the paint has been messed up a little bit on my watch. But the bumpers, I know I got most of the front end off this car, but the bumpers, the grille, some of the pieces around the headlights, there was an application put on this car that was like a spray-on chrome finish, and essentially it looked pretty good when it was new, but it's starting to kind of yellow or nickel. Now, I don't hate it. I don't even really think it looks that bad, but the stainless trim was not done. The trim all around the windows and things were not done. So you have kind of two different colors of trim. Not a big deal, but at the same time, if I would go through all the hassle to have the car go through and fix all the body, have the car repainted, I couldn't leave the chrome alone. With that being said, chrome, to have the bumpers, all the pieces stripped down and redone and refinished, probably looking at another $5,000 to $10,000. So I'm looking at this thing as a bigger picture item and not just the right now. Like I said, it still hurts to sell it, but looking at the car going, I know what I have in it now, and if I end up dumping in another 10, 15, 20 grand into this car, which I could do, and potentially willing to do, but I don't think it makes the most sense. I don't do this stuff in order to try to make money. The last several old cars that I built, I had fun with, and then I did sell for a pretty decent profit. But that's not my main goal. To me, if I get to that point, it kind of takes the fun out of building these cars. So I'm looking at this purely as where I'm at, where I'm going, and what needs to be done. With that also being said, I've got two other projects sitting out. One's in my garage, one's outside currently, that I'm looking forward to working on. So what I think is, even though it's a hard lesson and it kind of sucks to have to get rid of this car, I think the main goal here is sell the car, take the money, and then dump that, take what I've learned, and more importantly, and dump that into the next project. I'm going to start off by ordering, a nice front end. I'm not going to try to put stuff in a car that doesn't belong in there. I still appreciate people that do, and even myself trying to put stuff in cars that doesn't belong. To me, that still feels more like a hot rod, rat rod kind of garage build than ordering up a several $1,000 front end that's basically able to weld in. But also, time is money. This was supposed to be a couple-month project, and here we are over 2 years later, and it's still technically not done. I mean, things that still need to be done on the car include it needs a brake pedal. It has no brake pedal in it at all. So brake pedal, all the brake system, including lines. It needs a gas tank modified to put a fuel pump in. Could run a fuel pump on the side for the LS, on the side of the frame rail, but I don't like those. They're noisy and they always burn up. So modify the gas tank, fuel lines, brake lines, steering lines. And with all that done, and wiring, I've got the Holly system to plug and play, so very little bit of wiring to do, but to make it run. But even after all that, I still don't have air conditioning in the car, which once again don't really need it. But why go through all this build and not have it? Have that. I know in the past my wife and I and my son were in this car before, and basically left a car show to get home because it was so hot. The car show had hardly any shade, and we had no air conditioning in the car. So the drive to and from was miserable. The car show was kind of miserable. We came home when actually loaded up and took off to go out in the boat in order to go cool down. There's still some unfinished things on this car that I would like to get done and didn't get to. So hard lesson learned. But that's part of all this. Everything that I've ever built, the idea that learning from it and moving on to the next thing is key. And so, like I said, on the next project, I'm going to start off with a decent front end that's meant for the car and go from there. And I think I should be able to turn this around a lot quicker, the next car, I should say. So, unfortunately, it's going to kill me to see this thing go. I've actually, I went through just the other night as I was already regretting selling it. And I searched the country from California to LA, down to Florida, up to Minnesota, some of the major cities that I have friends and people in. And I could not find another two-door Packard that was even close to this condition. That was within reason price-wise. There was like one a couple hours away for almost 20 grand, and I'm sure it needs stuff as well. And so I know getting rid of it is kind of a mistake. I hate doing that, but I think this is the best thing for me currently. Like I said, getting into a four-door car that's more family-friendly. The one car I bought, the reason I did buy it is it has a brand new interior in it. So I'm going to modify the snot out of that car and basically do some of the stuff I'm doing here, but hopefully do it better. And so my time has passed. I'm done with, unfortunately, I'm kind of over this project, and I hate for that to be that way, but it's time for it to move on, and looking forward to the next chapter. So I appreciate all of you that have watched. I'm sorry. I feel like I've failed in completing the car. Most importantly, the worst part is I feel like I failed my son because he liked this car, called it the Blue Zoom, and always talked about, when we're going to go drive the Blue Zoom, and is it going to be faster now? I want to go drive it. And so yesterday when I told him I was selling it and he started crying, he was crying about, I want to go drive it. And so that killed me. I didn't like that I felt like I let him down. He's 4. I know that he'll be fine. I'm sure the next car that we build, he'll enjoy it as well. And so he has long time to get over this car, but it still hurt that I've talked to him about going and driving it again, and then now we're not. So kind of a sad day, but looking forward to getting the shop cleaned up. As you can see, it kind of have started. I still need a lot more to go, and then going to go from there. So thank you for coming along on this journey on this car. Maybe you've learned a couple things on here, or maybe you learned a lot of what not to do. Either way, if you got something out of it, I appreciate you watching, and stick around for all the next things that I'm doing. So thank you so much.